What's up, beautiful people? Maria here. Been a long time since I did a solo video. Hopefully, gonna keep this nice and short. It is all about self-love. Um, Something I am continuously navigating every day, remembering how to love thyself unconditionally. And just had a pretty powerful session with a coaching client, who said something, that I've heard before. I've heard other people say it, and it resonated. She said, everybody talks about you just need to love yourself more. You just need to love yourself more, right? And we do. That phrase is sort of very loosely just thrown around a lot. Um, and I almost feel like because it's so loosely thrown around, it's used. I mean, it's lost its the profound meaning in it. Because what I realize is, as humans, we don't know what it means. We don't actually know what love is as humans. We do deep down, our souls know, because it's literally what our souls are, is infinite unconditional love. But the programming within us, the traumas within us, the pain, the insecurity, the fear is really all of the above. Um, we have forgotten what love is, but that is what we've chosen to do. Wild as it is, we chose to come into a fear-based game to remember what love is. It's kind of funny, but not when you're going through it. It's not. So I heard her when she said that. She's like, everybody just throws it around. Like, you just need to love yourself more. And like, I do. She said, I do. I do love myself. And that's what everybody says to me that I work with or that I'm close with. Um, we have this misconception, this illusion that we are, for the most part, operating from a place of love. And we're not. We're in a fear-based game. We've been programmed to live in fear, which means every single one of us is operating from fear most of the time. That's what this awakening is. That's what becoming more conscious means. It means we are becoming more aware, more conscious of our unconsciousness, of the shadow, of the fear, of the darkness that has been unconsciously controlling us through life. And so we all talk a good game. I love myself. I don't beat myself up. I don't talk badly to myself. That means I love myself, right? No, not necessarily, right? There are so many different things that we do, like the amount is probably limitless, um, that are not loving to self, that go beyond just negative self-talk, that go beyond just self-harm, right? Like there are so many things, patterns, behaviors that we do on a daily basis that energetically we're telling the universe we don't love ourselves. And so, like I said to this individual that I was coaching, I said, I could give you a whole list of like self-love practices that would be beneficial. They're going to be helpful. They're tools, right? Like sitting in front of the mirror and telling yourself you love yourself. That is a very powerful thing to do for yourself, because it's probably something majority of us have never done, is really sit there and truly sit there and say, I love you to yourself. We very easily throw that love at other people. How easily we tell other people we love them. But do we sit there and remind ourselves of that every day? Do we wake up in the morning and the first thing we say is, I love you to myself? I guarantee I could probably count on my hand on this earth plane how many people probably do that. So that is a great thing to do, sitting in front of the mirror, telling yourself, looking into your own eyes and saying, I love you. A lot can come through for you in that. Giving yourself a hug every day is an act of self-love. Feeding ourselves healthy foods is an act of self-love. Choosing not to put things into our body that we know are harmful is an act of self-love, right? These are all things that, like, I think a lot of us know. It's sort of, when you break it down, kind of common sense, right? But what I encouraged her to do, because this is what I do, I go beyond just those sort of, I don't want to call those surface level practices, because they're not. They're again, they're beneficial, they're tools, they're healing, they are forms of self-love. Choosing to take care of your mind, your body, and your soul is self-love. How do we do that? Well, like I just said, we feed ourselves healthy things. We choose not to put things into our body that are harmful. Even if we think we have this, we're above that, okay? We're not above that till we're above that. And we're still carrying a lot of lower vibrational energies that mean we're not above that. So it's starting to become more conscious in our daily choices. This is something I work with every client, but especially coaching. I am a holistic health and wellness coach. Holistic meaning mind, body, soul. How can you feed your mind, your body, your soul, the nutrients it needs to grow, to thrive? Because that's love. But the other thing that we can start doing to practice self-love is start becoming aware of our patterns that are driven by trauma and fear. Because on a spectrum of light, fear is the polar opposite of love. It's still all on one spectrum. But as you shift down in dimensions, shift down in vibrations, it feels different. Fear feels very different than love does, even though it still comes from that same single source, right? So to me, how you can really start loving yourself, instead of allowing your ego to drive, and the ego will sit there and go, oh, but I love myself because I do X, Y, Z. I love myself because I do this, right? The ego always needing the validation and also operating off of validation. Well, I can tell you that there is not one of us that is embodying unconditional self-love all the time. We're not. We're that's the evolution of human consciousness. That's what we're working towards. That's why none of us really know what love is. Still, we're all I don't want to say learning, because again, the soul knows. We're remembering. We're breaking through so many like layers of illusion and delusion of love, of lower vibrations of love, to go, oh wait, that never was love. Okay, so wait, that means that this is love, because it's the opposite of that. So because we're a species that kind of operates off of like contradictions in a sense, paradoxes. I mean, this whole third dimension is a contradiction. So knowing that that's our program, use that program within you and say, all right, instead of me sitting here and convincing myself of all the ways I do love myself, let me dive into all the patterns that were born from fear and trauma. Where am I still not trusting myself? Where am I still not honoring my truth, my voice, my authenticity? Where am I holding myself back? Where am I making myself small? These are the questions you can start asking yourself that will show you the areas that you're not still fully loving yourself. That's how you will start to identify where you're not still loving yourself. What relationships are you still holding on to that don't foster and support your growth, that want to keep you stuck in past ways, past experiences, right? Look at those relationships. I'm not saying you have to cut them all out, but look at them honestly. And each one is individual, but then approach those relationships and say to the individual that I don't feel like this is a loving situation right now. I don't feel like this is a loving experience. Can you see that too? And guess what? If there's real love in there, they'll be able to identify it as well. They may not like it at first, but they will be able to identify that with you and say, you know what? I'm still operating from this pattern. You're right. Let's work on that. Well, guess what? That relationship is worth hanging on to, because that's saying, hey, I'm recognizing maybe to this point we've been operating from more fear than love. But I love enough to want to work through that. Some relationships won't even present you that opportunity. And then that's where you say to yourself, I'm choosing to love myself. So I am going to choose to walk away from this. I am going to choose to release this relationship right now. And also understand, I said this in my session, that just because that's how we feel right now doesn't mean that when we release relationships, it has to be forever. This all comes back to like boundary setting and setting boundaries, which the majority of us don't know how to do that in a loving way, but we're learning. And so sometimes setting a boundary means I need to step away from this relationship right now to gain clarity, to make sure I am operating from a place of love and not a place of fear and attachment, right? And if that relationship, if there is a higher dimension of that relationship, I mean, there's higher dimensions of all relationships, but if that higher dimension of that relationship is meant to integrate into this one, it will. And that's where trust comes in. It's trusting that when you're coming from a loving intention for yourself before anybody else, before anybody else, before anybody else, before anybody else, when you're operating from true love for self, you can't not co-create loving relationships with other individuals that are doing the same thing. It's how energy works. We are going to go through phases of grief and loss in this transition, in this integration. We're going to go through many phases of it. It's happening constantly to me, constantly. But simultaneously, I'm also attracting higher vibrational relationships into my life that are reflecting that I am not backing down from loving myself anymore. I am not willing to self-sacrifice my love for me in the name of anybody or anything else. I'm not. I have come too far in my journey. I have faced way too much to go backwards in that sense. That doesn't mean I am not still a human that will still repeat past behaviors. Past behaviors will come in, but I'm becoming more and more conscious every day. So it's being able to recognize when that behavior is coming in and nipping it in the bud, holding myself accountable, knowing when I really, really am not operating from a higher place and owning it, not in a shameful way, but in accountability. Accountability is compassion. Accountability is love. It's owning that, oh, whoa, that was an old behavior and I'm not going to shame myself for it. I see that it's coming up. I kind of see even why it's coming up, but I need to address that right now. I need to shift that and not keep going down that road. And I can tell you from my own experience, there will come a time in your healing journey, because I'm there. I'm there now, where there's no going back. There's no going back. You won't. Your ego will want you to. Your ego will really try to convince you and manipulate you and talk you into it and tell you that oh, no, you're fine. You're fine. This is fine. This is you doing it differently. No, but you will feel it within you, and your body will reject that energy. It will say, no, we don't embody this anymore. We don't embody this reality anymore, remember? We don't operate off of this anymore in this kind of scenario. It happens. This is evolution. That happens organically. It happens naturally. But it happens naturally as you become more conscious and continuously face your shadow. I face my shadow every single day, multiple times a day. Love her. She's there all the time, creeping in, trying to manipulate me, trying to tell me that I'm doing it differently, even though every part of my body is saying, you're doing it again. You're doing the old behavior again, and that's okay. But are you sure you want to create from this? Are you sure this is what you want to create moving forward? I don't think it is. And somewhere in your body, you'll feel sick. You'll feel something that will like it's like it repulses that narrative. It's the best way I can describe it. It's like the body won't allow you to embody that narrative anymore because you've truly broken free from it. I think that's all I have right now. So, we're all working on self-love. Do not allow your ego to tell you, I love myself. I love myself fully, 100%. Don't let it convince you of that, because I'm here to tell you there is not one of us on this earth plane that 1000% embodies the unconditional love that our soul is. It doesn't. We're human, and that's okay. But this is the evolution. This is human evolution. This is the shift in consciousness. And it's a process that is ironically a very organic process when we just allow it to happen. When we stop trying to convince ourselves of the illusions and the delusions that we've been very, very comfortable in, comfortably suffering in, I should say. Comfortable because it's what we know. Happy? Healthy? No. Suffering? Yes. So love yourself more. And the best way I can guide those of you who are like already doing the work or starting to do the work, thinking about doing the work, ask yourself, show me the patterns. Ask your higher self, your soul, your spirit, whatever resonates with you in this higher energy that we all exist in. Ask, where am I still operating from trauma, from fear, from attachment, from grief, from pain? You want to just sum it up with fear, because all those other energies are little branches of fear. Ask yourself, where am I still operating from the program of fear? Help me to see that. Because just by you asking yourself that, that's self-love. That's not being afraid of the answer. That's saying, I trust in my love to guide me through whatever the answer is. So love yourself. So I know I am learning to love myself a little bit more, a lot more every day. And it's worth it. All the pain that I'm going through, have gone through, and will go through, it's worth every ounce of it. That's why I have no regrets. So, love yourselves. I love you.